This is a book that has built entire empires, it's fueled wars, and it's guided billions of lives. But underneath all the familiar stories and sermons, there's a much darker, much stranger text. One that's just filled with secrets, codes, and prophecies that you almost never hear about.
Okay, let's get right into it. In this explainer, we're going to explore the hidden side of one of the most important books ever written. We're going to uncover what's been misinterpreted, what's been left out, and what might just change the way you see it forever.
And here's the thing, we're not starting with some long-lost dusty scroll found in a cave somewhere. Nope, we're starting with secrets that are hiding right out in the open, inside the pages of the most common version of the Bible you can find. Okay, get this. It's a fascinating theory. The King James Bible translation, right? It was finished the year William Shakespeare turned 46. So if you go to Psalm 46 and you count exactly 46 words from the start, you land on the word shake. Then, you go to the end of that same psalm, you count 46 words back, you have to skip the word Selah, which is just a musical note, and the word you find is spear. Shake, spear. Coincidence? Or was this a little hidden birthday message from the translators to the great playwright? It's pretty wild. All right, this next one, it's a classic. We've all seen them in movies, video games, art. The four horsemen are these iconic symbols of the end of the world. But what if the story we all know left out the most terrifying part?
So, when you actually read the original text in the book of Revelation, it describes the first four horsemen exactly like we know them: the Antichrist, war, famine, and death. But here's what everyone misses. The verse doesn't stop there. Not even close. It says that following right behind that pale horse was Hades, the underworld, hell itself. So there's actually a fifth entity in this nightmare parade, which makes the whole prophecy so much darker than most people ever realize.
Next up, let's see how some of these ancient stories might actually have their roots in terrifying, real-world events. Because sometimes the line between an act of God and a straight-up natural disaster, well, it gets really blurry.
Take the story of Sodom, for instance. It's famous for that reign of fire and brimstone. Well, archaeologists have actually found evidence suggesting these cities could have been wiped out by a real cataclysm. The scientific theory points to a meteorite exploding in the atmosphere. And we're talking about a blast 1,000 times stronger than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, which would have instantly superheated the air to over 2,000 degrees Celsius. Wood, cloth, even metal and pottery would have just melted or burst into flames.
And the scale of this destruction, it's hard to even wrap your head around. Based on what they found in the ground, it's estimated that around 8,000 people were just vaporized in a single moment. Whether you see that as divine judgment or just the cruel randomness of the cosmos, the end result was the same: total annihilation.
And the Bible isn't just looking at the past. It's filled with prophecies about the future, with these descriptions of global conflict and suffering that feel, well, kind of familiar today, don't they? This warning about escalating wars, famines, and disasters, a lot of people see it as a roadmap to the end times, and it's hard not to see echoes of it in the modern world. Okay, so now we get to what might be the biggest mystery of all. And this one isn't about what's hidden in the Bible's text. It's about what was deliberately taken out of it. A book that was considered so controversial, it was actually banned.
This is where the story takes a really sharp turn, because the narrative we're about to jump into was actually considered scripture by a lot of early Christians. But then, it was decided that it was just too heretical, too dangerous for the official version of the book.
Let me introduce you to the book of Enoch. It's this ancient Jewish text written in that gap between the Old and New Testaments. And here's what's so fascinating. It's actually quoted in the New Testament by Jesus' own apostles, Peter and Jude. But by the 4th century, it was banned. It basically vanished, only to be rediscovered centuries later. And to this day, it's still part of the official Bible for some of the oldest Christian churches in the world, like the Ethiopian Orthodox Church.
So, what was so controversial about it? Well, the book tells this insane story about 200 angels, called the Watchers, who came down to earth. They were overcome with lust for human women, took them as wives, and had children with them, creating this monstrous hybrid race. But they did more than that. They taught humanity forbidden secrets, magic, witchcraft, and how to make weapons of war, basically unleashing chaos and violence on the entire planet.
And the children of these unions, they were called the Nephilim. And you are not going to believe this. According to a literal reading of the text, they were giants of unimaginable size, over 3,000 cubits. That could translate to more than a kilometer tall.
I mean, we're talking about actual titans that devoured crops, animals, and eventually started eating humans too. Now, of course, that raises some big questions. A kilometer tall? Could that be a translation error? Well, some people argue the original measurement for a cubit was different, which would put the giants at a more modest 3 to 6 meters tall, which, let's be honest, is still absolutely terrifying. But either way, the text is describing a world that was overrun by these colossal, cannibalistic monsters. It's an idea so extreme you can kind of see why it got scrubbed from the official record. You know, the Book of Enoch isn't the only thing that causes major misconceptions. Even foundational concepts that everyone thinks they know, like hell and the Antichrist, are radically different in the actual biblical text compared to how we see them in pop culture. Let's talk about hell. When you hear that word, you probably picture a fiery realm of eternal torture, ruled by demons, right? Well, that image largely comes from books like Dante's Inferno, not the Bible itself. The original Hebrew and Greek words, Sheol and Hades, they don't describe a place of punishment. They refer to the common grave of all humanity, a state of silence, of non-existence. In the Bible, fire is almost always a symbol of complete and final destruction, not endless torment.
And the Antichrist? Forget the charming political figure you see in the movies. The Book of Revelation describes a monstrous beast with 7 heads and 10 horns rising up out of the sea. Most theologians don't see this as a literal monster, but as a powerful metaphor for a whole series of hostile world powers that have oppressed people throughout history, from ancient Egypt to more modern empires. It's a symbol of corrupt systems, not just one evil person.
So, from hidden codes and lost books to prophecies we've totally misunderstood, it's pretty clear this ancient collection of texts is way more complex and mysterious than it first appears. It really makes you wonder, after 2,000 years of study, what other secrets are still waiting to be found, just hiding there, in plain sight?